Hey folks, welcome to Older and Wiser. You've got Bob Bates and Susan Sikora for the next 20 minutes or so as we explore recent public opinion surveys. Good morning, Susan.
Good morning.
Top of our list today, a survey that ranks the 20 best TV shows of all time. And I know you've looked at this list. I don't agree with much of anything on it. I don't know how you feel. What are your thoughts?
First of all, Friends was the top. I like Friends, don't get me wrong. It was pleasant. It was not appointment television for me.
Yeah. I have a feeling the survey we're going to talk about was taken among millennials. So it's possible that the things that they find the best are a little different than the things we find the best. You and I have a much longer history with television, and we have the opportunity to have seen a lot more programming. So let's get started. According to this new poll, Americans say that the 80s and 90s are the best decades for television. Disagree completely.
Yeah, because we were alive sooner than that.
I know. Come on. Only 7% believe that we're currently living in the best era for television. You know what? I tell you, I think I'm among that 7% because these days with Netflix and Hulu and Apple Plus and so many platforms, the quality of television programming, in my mind, has never been better.
I think I would agree with you since I am now in the streaming world.
Yes.
Other than that, it was like I kept watching, old reruns until I fell asleep on the couch, and it didn't take long. But I think there are some good old shows still on there that I still kind of like. It's like comfort food.
Yeah.
We've talked about this with movies, but I think TV shows do it too. But I think the streaming stuff, I agree. I like a lot of the stuff that's now out there.
So much great stuff. Let me just guess what your number one most iconic best show ever on television is. I'm guessing it's a title that has 3 words and starts with the letter I. Am I correct?
You know I'm going to say I Love Lucy. Come on.
That's your show, man. That is your show.
You know what? And I'm sorry, there's no excuse. I don't care. Any show. I don't even care if it's the grapes or the vitamin or Vegemin. Any show, she makes me laugh now. And I started watching that when I was a kid.
I get it. That is your all-time favorite. Well, listen, out of this list of 35 iconic TV shows, the two that were most watched and most beloved, according to the survey here, was number 1 was Friends at 43%, Seinfeld at 40%, Game of Thrones, man, a lot of people love that.
Which one was it? Game of
Thrones. I did not. I tried to watch Game of Thrones. It's a little brutal and it's depressing. It's beautiful and it's epic, and it's interesting. But I was just, I tend to lean toward comfort television, more than things with a lot of danger and potential horror. Yeah. Here's one that I'm going to rant and rave about for just a second. I hate it so much. This show is from the 70s, early 80s, I believe. Three's Company. The worst show ever on television. This comes in number 4 on the list of people's favorite at 36%.
This is the one with Suzanne Summers and John
Ritter.
Yeah.
The one about the
three people
living in an apartment.
No, I agree. I don't know if it was that. I don't hate it.
It's anti-women. It's anti-gay. It's just anti-comedy in my belief. I thought there's nothing funny about that show. It's bad acting. It's over the top. I don't know. Maybe I'm being too rough on it. I get why people liked it. But
be more honest. How do you really like it, Bob?
I even hated the theme song.
Yeah. You know what? I have to say, I didn't watch it enough to hate it that much. And I don't even hate it. I just thought, nah. And I passed over it. So
but it was one of the most popular shows on television. It was constantly coming in number 1. And I never, ever understood it, even when it was on the air. Frasier coming in next at 36%. The Office, MASH, all of those among
Nash
the
was
top.
great. Nash was great. Frasier was good. Frasier was a good, it was a good half hour. It was funny. It was an interesting situation in that, an older parent comes to live with his son. Maybe a lot of people, even in the boomer age, had not experienced that yet. It probably would have some timeliness now, but it was, it was good. It was a lot of seasons. I can't remember how many, but
A lot of seasons, yeah. It went on for quite a while.
I mean, some of this stuff overstayed its welcome. It was a little longer than its 15 minutes of fame warranted. But
a lot of shows do that. They have a lot of success, and then they don't cancel until they start to fail. And which was one of the things that I was so liked about Seinfeld, was that they canceled that show while it was still in the top 10. Jerry Seinfeld decided it's time, and I think that's kind of great. Pull the plug while you're still on top.
You know what? A friend of ours that we worked with, and I've lost track of him, I should find him, Eric Lee Preminger, used to say that his mother, Gypsy Rose Lee, his father was Otto Preminger, and he used to say his mother, who was really the first stripper, among other things, she had a lot of talent.
Yeah.
And she said to him, Eric, always leave them wanting more, and don't give it to them.
And don't give it to them. Ah,
People
interesting.
don't get that. And I thought that's always been one of the smarter things that I've heard about show business, entertainment, TV, what have you, because I'm not saying if you were doing a news piece or an informative piece, you want to give people as much information as you can. But if people are going, oh, what happens next? Cut. I think a lot of them have figured that out, maybe even on streaming.
Yeah,
and
it's great advice from the world's most famous stripper, Gypsy Rose Lee. That's a good point. Leave them wanting more and don't give it to them.
And she lived by that. And look what she became. I mean, she did a lot more than just stripping. She was an entertainer. She did a talk show. She did a number of things. I think she really knew the business.
Yeah.
And
Eric Lee's got an interesting story too. Yeah, if you ever read his book. Nearly half of Americans, 45%, say they still have recordings of their favorite TV episodes on VHS tapes or DVDs. You got any of that stuff laying around?
You know what? I think I got rid of most of anything like that. And it's funny that you mentioned that, because I was thinking today, I went through my DVDs and or CDs, and there's a bunch of them. Some of them are DVDs, they're movies, and some of them. I thought, what do I do with these? How do I recycle these? Because I've got too many and I'm never going to use them again.
Yeah, and VHS, I feel sorry for people who have big collections of VHS tapes, because first of all, they look blurry by today's standards, and they're clunky and they take up a lot of room, and they seldom play back very well these days.
Yeah, I think if I have 2 or 3 in there, they're only, you know what they are? They're physical reminders on my shelf to eventually at least get a DVD version or some other newer version that I can watch, and then the old ones will go to, I donate them to the library. They still collect some of those things, but for all I know, they may be being polite and throw them out after I leave.
I do have a few recordings of shows, digital recordings of shows that I sometimes will go back to and enjoy over and over. One of the series that I loved the most was The Newsroom, which was on HBO.
Oh, yes.
Did you ever watch that?
Oh, you know what I did?
One of the greatest shows I've ever seen on television. I do not know why they only could do that for 3 seasons, but I love Aaron Sorkin, and boy, it's smart, it's funny, there's things, it's dangerous, it's exciting. I just thought it was the best thing on TV.
I think, having worked in TV, and I was not really in a newsroom per se very long. I did feature pieces once a week when I was in public TV, but it was very revealing.
Yeah, and I thought they did a good job.
What went on?
They showed you how it really works in TV, and having worked in TV as well, it's pretty close. I mean, it's fairly accurate to what it's really like. So I don't know. I think that would be great. I love Boston Legal. The Friends. I've got a bunch of those episodes. You know
what's not on the list?
What?
Mary Tyler Moore. And I have to say, I think that show, with the people that were on there, it was, we just lost Betty White, and she was the last remaining cast member that was still around, and Ed Asner, see, Lou even, that's how real they were. But I thought it was a really good example, and probably set a tone for other shows later, if they were to admit it, of an ensemble cast.
Yeah, it was a great show.
She didn't have to be on camera every minute. She didn't have to have the funniest lines. She was okay with setting up a joke as opposed to having the punchline. It just worked.
Remember that final episode?
Yes, I do.
The group hug?
A long way to Tipperary,
Didn't
my
it
friend.
make you cry?
Light out.
Memorable
mean,
scene.
who thought? They get fired. I did not see that coming. That and the Newhart one where he wakes up and thinks it was all a dream.
That's right. Oh, Bob Newhart show. That was great.
Yeah,
too.
actually,
So much great history in those years. All right, let's move on. Which is worse? Let me ask you this: would you rather lose your phone or your bank card?
Well, a month ago, I would have said I would have rather lost my phone. Now I don't really want to lose either one.
Yeah.
I'm too into the FOMO stuff, so I should probably say that for my mental health, but I think I'm too far in.
Yeah, you're in. I
do everything.
I kind of got you hooked on the smartphone, didn't I?
Yeah, thanks a lot. I'll probably need some therapy soon. So.
According to this poll of 2,000 smartphone users, 6 in 10 people say they simply couldn't cope with being separated from their cell phone for more than a day. They couldn't cope.
I could, but I have friends of mine with whom I now text all the time, friends from school, from college, and I'm thinking, we do a Zoom once a week. And we're on for a couple of hours at a time, like 4. I think you have to. Sometimes I get into it, sometimes I don't. If they're texting about recipes, I'm out.
I'm addicted to my phone, of course, as so many people are. 68% of people use their phones primarily to take photos. 64% use it to check the time. 62% use it to check the weather forecast constantly. I don't know why people care that much about the weather.
You know what?
In Southern California, so it doesn't matter.
I do that.
Yeah.
Before I go out now, it takes me longer because I think, what do I have to put on? How cold is it? Now, mind you, I could literally walk 3 steps, go over to the side, open my patio door, and feel the day. I could take a step out and then close it back up and say, okay, it's cold, I need a heavier jacket.
We're from California. Listen, we have no right to talk about weather at all. I guess the people in the rest of the country, they got the hard stuff when it comes to weather. 27% of respondents depend solely on their phones for directions. And get this, 1 in 3 have never, ever used a paper map. 1 in 3 people say they've never used a paper map.
Do you have to have used it correctly?
I'm just surprised that I don't think my kids have used a paper map, to be honest with you.
You know what? We had a whole bunch of paper maps, and a couple of moves ago, I threw them all out because I did not use them anymore. For me, it's easier to do MapQuest on a computer, which is probably an old technique at this point. MapQuest and then
and then you print it out.
Print it out, right?
People don't even do that anymore.
There's a commercial on TV.
I know what you're talking about.
I know the guy who says you're going to be like your parents. Yeah. He's brilliant. I don't know who he is. He's just so underplayed.
It's a funny idea. He goes, "How many of you printed out a map to get here today?" And
the answer because we're off to a bad start.
Yeah.
He doesn't overplay it. It's just like he's trying, he's not getting anywhere. And they're boomers. They're, our age or younger or older.
More than half, 55% of respondents consider running out of the battery power to be a quote-unquote nightmare scenario. Come on, I mean, a nightmare scenario? I will say we depend so much on our phones these days that if for some reason we have no battery power left, it is stressful. And you feel isolated, and you feel, especially if you're out somewhere, and you feel like you can't call for any help. You can't, you're kind of limited as what you can do without that cell phone.
If you're driving, you have something.
You can drive, as long as you can drive somewhere,
Right, I ordered that right away, and I keep that attachment in my purse. Although I don't take my purse with me all the time now, I just kind of take what I need. But probably I should keep it in the car.
According to this, 48% of those polled say that losing their phone would be the most upsetting thing ahead of bank cards, car keys, or even their wedding ring.
You know how I would figure that out? If I did lose my phone. A couple of times I left the house without it. Now, I wasn't going far, but I thought, I left my phone home. And then I thought, what did you do when you didn't have it? Well, I did have my little flip phone. But generally, the flip phone, I never even knew where it was because I didn't use that half as much as I'm using this thing.
Right.
But I do think I think it's good to have because if you have a problem, if you break down, if you have to call like a AAA or something,
That's right.
you've got it on the phone.
You got to have it with you, and you want to keep it charged. That's the key.
Yes, absolutely.
Keep the phone charged. And I have a case for my phone to keep the backup battery, so I never run out of power. All right, moving on. A recent survey found that it takes Americans an average of 24 minutes to actually get out of bed.
Oh, do they have a camera in my room? Where is it?
Is that you? Are you slow at getting up in the morning?
It's probably not 24 minutes, but I start thinking about it, and then I think, oh, let me just, if I have the radio on, let me hear this one piece, and then I'll get up, and then the cat, I have to say, my cat, he really doesn't wake me up. He's figured it out. She's not getting up until she's getting up, and I think that's training, because otherwise you can do what the cat says.
So does your cat climb on top of you and
he's
nuzzle
usually
you?
sleeping on the bed somewhere, but sometimes he'll start this, the kneading kind of thing.
The kneading stuff. I hate that stuff.
And but then if I tell him, not yet, let's wait. I'm not ready to get up yet. You are.
Do you have a snooze alarm on your alarm clock or your phone?
I do, but I don't use it. What I do have though is a time. I have one of these clocks. A friend gave it to us, and it's great. It's the thing that projects the time exactly on the ceiling.
I love that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's red, not bright blue or anything, so it won't keep you up. And it also has a thing, so if I put it on, you can have it shut off automatically at 90, 60, 30 minutes, that kind of thing. Or you can leave it on.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
The average American, according to this survey, needs 2 alarms and hits the snooze twice.
Are they retired?
Don't know. Don't know.
I think that's
just an average. But I think there's something, I have a tendency to set my alarm ahead of when I really need to get up.
Yes.
So that I can hit the snooze a couple times. Yeah.
And if you have a sleepless night, the time you can always fall asleep is when you have to get up.
Right.
Why is that?
I don't know. According to this, 80% of people who exercise regularly reported that their quality of sleep was good compared to 56% of those who didn't exercise. Do you feel like when you're exercising, you sleep better?
Yes. We had a couple of warm days. We had a warm week was it 2 weeks ago or so? Mm-hmm. And when it was warm enough, I thought, what the heck? I went and I swam in the outdoor pool that is heated in the apartment complex. And I thought, if it happens that it doesn't work, it's too cold, I'll get out and go back home. But I swam 4 days in a row, half an hour each day. And I have to tell you, I slept better and I felt better.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, but then the weather got cold.
Okay, finally today, here's the headline. New York City has the rudest Uber passengers in the United States. Well, I don't think I'm surprised to think that New York City has the rudest Uber passengers. Does that shock you at all?
Here's my question about this. You and I can sit here, but when was the last time? First of all, I can't even tell you the last time I was in New York City, okay? I'm originally from New Jersey, and I haven't been back there in years because I brought my mother out here and all of that. But my point being that I don't feel qualified to make that judgment, although I have to say my first impulse was to say, well, of course they are. They're New Yorkers.
You're right. It's prejudicial, isn't it, to decide in advance that people from New York would naturally be ruder than the rest of the country.
It is if you don't live in New York and don't go there often, regularly.
Yeah.
I think if you go there regularly, if you use the service, or if you live there, then you're in a position to judge.
I would think that New York City would be a place where there's more Uber drivers and more Uber passengers than anywhere else in the world.
Maybe.
So maybe there's something to do with just the sheer numbers. You're bound to get a few rude people. But, I mean, New Yorkers are also used to rude cab drivers, so I would think that they would tend to cut Uber drivers some slack rather than the other way around.
I have to say this, and again, it's been a million years since I've been in the city and took a cab somewhere. But when I didn't have a lot of rude cab drivers.
Oh yeah, didn't you? No.
They were either nice or they just took me where I was going.
They didn't say anything. Yeah.
I think part of it, maybe, especially for tourists, if they're coming in from various parts of the country and they don't realize how expensive everything is in New York City. Mm-hmm. As you're sitting in the cab and you're trying to go from point A to point B, and you just paid a lot of money for what you did at point A, and point B is not going to be cheap. You probably want a cheap way to get there, and it's not as cheap as you probably probably hope for.
So you're getting cranky in the back seat because you're watching the price go up. Yeah, no, I get it. This survey was based on apparently they interviewed Uber drivers, and so the survey was based on the passengers who show up on time, some who leave trash in vehicles or talk to their drivers respectfully or disrespectfully. These are some of the things that drivers sort of comment on, I guess. Other rude cities included Seattle, Washington, D.C., and Boston. I don't know.
I really don't. I think it would be too judgmental and preachy on my part to think that. Again, not having used the service I don't think I've ever used an Uber driver. I have a car, so I don't. I'm not running all over the place.
I remember when I first took Uber for the first time, I was really amazed at how much I liked it. I was concerned that the drivers were not quote unquote professional drivers, and that anybody with a driver's license could drive me around. Do I trust just anybody with a driver's license? But as I did it more and more, I felt like Uber drivers seemed safer.
Don't you actually have to trust somebody in any public transportation?
Of course.
I mean, you get on a streetcar, you got to make sure that they can pull that brake. Same thing with cabs, same thing with planes, buses, trains, anything. I mean, there's a certain level of you have to trust the system at that point. So,
you've got this artificial sense that cab drivers or bus drivers or trolley drivers, they're all well trained.
Yeah, and never make a mistake.
And never make a mistake, right?
And never get distracted and never try to text while they're driving. I mean, probably they don't. I think you probably err on the side of caution, but again, I'm guessing.
I feel like the world's gotten really angry, and
look at the planes.
Look at airplanes, right?
And all that have been on the planes. And I don't think are people ruder now, or are they just annoyed with the pandemic and the mask thing? So I'm tired of it, so I'm going to take it out on whoever is sitting next to me or across the aisle.
I think they're watching the example of others. And also, we're recording some of these encounters on our cell phones that maybe we weren't recording before, and we're seeing it more than we used to. Maybe these Karens were always out there yelling at people and doing this.
It's like, I gotcha.
Yeah, so the question then, I guess, is the world angrier, or are we just recording more of it?
I think it's the world is a little angrier because of what we've been through and are still going through with the pandemic. I think we are recording a lot more of it.
I think politics has emboldened people to be nastier and angry. I think the politics of the last 4 or 6 years has emboldened people to be more rude and angry.
And it also, let me say, I think it's also technology in the sense that you put something out there quickly, whether it's on a text or on Twitter or something, and you don't have to say who you are. So you can say something, but nobody sees who said it because it's safe. To me, that's a little bit
right, exactly. The anonymity makes it easier.
We don't have to weigh in on every little thing.
That's right. Who cares what we think?
I think if you have something to contribute, open your mouth and say something.
We should do a podcast called Who Cares What We Think?
Sure. You don't care what I think?
Most people don't care what we think anyway.
No, I agree. Don't. I think, you know what it is more than anything? People don't think before they speak anymore. And because you have all this stuff where everybody's doing everything quickly, because you have a device that can get it out there quickly, and it's not a lot of effort, and the more you do it, the faster you get, guess what? They do.
Well, according to this, San Antonio is the best place for Uber drivers to work because those are the nicest people in America, according to this. Who knew it? San Antonio. Nice people there, apparently.
I don't know. I will say I have a friend of mine, but she lives in Florida, and after her husband passed, she got rid of her car. And I said, "Really? You don't have a car?" She goes, "No." So I guess she calls Uber all the time.
I do like the ability to go right now. I don't necessarily want to wait even 5 minutes for an Uber to come to my house to pick me up. Yeah, that's the only problem. Okay, we're about out of time. What is your final thought for the day, Susan?
Check in with your own level of cranky. I'm serious.
I think that I'm cranky about 30-40% of the time. My wife would argue that it's higher a percentage of time than that. For all the stuff that matters when you are 60 plus, visit us at olderandwiser.com. We'll see you next time, Susan.
Bye-bye.